This is Darcinovia here. This is my review on Claws of the Dragon. Now, I have a confession. I have read the Legacy comics before. Not that many of them, but I've read the first few volumes. This is the last of them that I've read at a local, Borders. I didn't buy the comics, I just picked them up and read them. And I really got into this. Now, I didn't read anything else in the EU really at the time. This was back in 2009, I believe. I've read this. This particular arc, I think, is fantastic. I make it well known that my favorite Star Wars comics are Obsession and the Battle of Jabim. Because what makes these comics so good? The art, the story, and everything else. Of course, I have other comics that are my favorites and that I've reviewed. You know, like anything involving Quinlan Voss. Now, what I love about this particular story arc is not only is the art good, I think the character development is for Cade is phenomenal. I think the backstory with Darth Krayt is great, and if you read the prior material prior to reading this, you know it's a great twist for me. I love the connections with the New Jedi Order, Legacy of the Force, the old multimedia project, the prequels, the original trilogy. There's a lot of connections from a bunch of stuff in the original expanded universe. And I'm a sucker for continuity. I really am. Especially in Star Wars. And I really appreciate that. Another thing I really liked about this comic was, again, my favorite aspect of Star Wars is the Jedi and the Sith. Anything involved in the Force is essentially is my favorite part of Star Wars. I like exploring the mystical side. And this is the first time, in this series that the one Sith, at least the culture behind it, is explored. And the differences between Krayt's Sith to Sidious's Sith. And this comic made Krayt into a much more interesting character, honestly. Because Krayt, according to this story arc, is not evil, really. He just wants to bring order. Though he can be evil from a certain perspective. And, like the previous comic I talked about, there was a brief appearance of a character, Vergere, from the New Jedi Order series. You know, the New Jedi Order series had a huge impact, really, the Yuuzhan Vong War, especially 100 years later. I don't even believe the Legacy comics would be possible without the Yuuzhan Vong, war, but that's a different discussion for another time. I think the backstory, spoiler, for, Darth Krayt, I couldn't help but feel bad for the character, especially after reading, the previous story arcs in Star Wars Republic, as a Share Het, seeing what a great Jedi he was, seeing all the things that he went through, losing, oh, basically, his family twice. And the thing I think about this comic, I think was really amazing. It showed just how similar Krayt is to Cade Skywalker, and I think that's brilliant. I think Krayt is a great foil for Cade, considering they're so much alike. And I think that's what makes a good villain. If you have a villain that is the exact opposite of the hero and maybe went through similar circumstances as them, that is what makes them great. Could argue he's also similar to Anakin Skywalker. Now, another thing I liked about this story arc is it revealed a question on who this mysterious woman was that was introduced in the Ready to Die story arc. And it's revealed at the end of this issue. I won't spoil that. But I think the art, since I'm going to speak about it, I'm just going to show my favorite panel for this. There's just too many. I think my favorite part of this comic is the duel between Obi-Wan and Ashar Het. Man, I don't like repeating myself. It's just was a really good comic, honestly. And reading this after like 11 years later, it made me regret not reading this whole series when I could. After this, everything I've read from this series will be completely new to me. I've pretty much forgotten everything that I've read because I haven't read it in so many years. But going back to this, I love the look of the Legacy era, and every time I read these comics, I just want to read more and more and more. I give Claw of the Dragon a classic rating. I think it's one of my favorite Star Wars comics, and I'm looking forward to read more. This is Darcenovia, over and out. May the Force be with you always, and see you guys next time with another review of Knights of the Old Republic. Later.